Hi, and welcome back to another video. And today I'll be talking about the upcoming Virginia governor race for 2025 and how we have finally, after about 3 months here, have finally got some new governor polls for this upcoming Virginia governor race. We got a couple from New Jersey, but that is for another video. Now, the nominees for this race has already been chosen, as you can see here. Back to the top here, where the nominees have been chosen. As you can see, the Republican is the current Lieutenant Governor, Winston Sears, and the Democratic candidate is the former Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger. Now, whoever is elected, whether it's Winston Sears or Abigail Spanberger, they will be the first woman governor to represent the state of Virginia as their governor. Now, as of right now, Republicans currently hold this governor's seat, as you know, Glenn Youngkin was able to win it 4 years ago, and so it is really up for grabs. As Glenn Youngkin is ineligible to run for re-election because Virginia governors only are allowed to have one term. They are not allowed to ever run again. Well, for two consecutive terms, they could have two non-consecutive terms actually, as what Terry McAuliffe tried to do and failed to do in 2021 when he ran against Glenn Youngkin and lost. And he ran, I'd argue, was a very, very poor campaign. But now we actually do have these female candidates who, you know, is a current lieutenant governor. She's been serving with Glenn Youngkin. And we also have Abigail Spanberger, who is a local congresswoman. She really has the record on it to run. So that is what this race is about. Now, you guys have heard me before in previous videos where I've talked about this. I was talking about this race a lot back in January and February. And I still talk about this race when I do my monthly prediction videos, which my one for May will be coming very, very soon. But you guys know that I still do believe, and I will also, talk about it in my prediction video, where I do believe that, Abigail Spanberger is on track to win. And that's what these new polls have shown. As you can see here, the new polls that have shown, Harris X released between 5-9, 5-13, where Spanberger's up plus 17, which is huge. I don't think she's up by 4. And then this next one, between May 12th and May 19th, where Spanberger, is up by 17, which is the largest she's led in this polling. Now, back in February was when I was able to, really talk about this race back when we had the 538 polls. But unfortunately, 538 was quickly shut down in early of March of 2025, and I have been forced to use real card politics, which I'm not exactly, very fond of doing, but I have to do it anyway. And what we've been seeing in this real card politics average is that Spanberger still has this wide lead over the current lieutenant governor. Now, of course, this can change, but time is running out for obviously Errol Sears to really make a comeback here. And I've been saying for months now, if this polling is accurate, Spanberger will probably win by 5 to 6 points. And I still do think that, it's also possibly a good chance that, this election could just be a likely Democrat win. And I think New Jersey will probably be more competitive, especially if Mike Sherrill wins that Democratic nomination. But we have yet to see. New Jersey was very close last time in 2021, where Republicans barely lost it. Trump almost won it last year, and so maybe Republicans can take it this time, but I doubt it. And still, we have this race where it seems it will also be going to the Democrats if these polls are accurate. As you can see, in 2017, the last time Trump was president, Democrats were able to win. However, when Biden was president, Republicans were able to win. Where Glenn Youngkin was able to win just barely of 2 points here. Very, very, very close margin. And Terry McAuliffe, despite being a former governor, actually lost to Glenn Youngkin, who was actually less known, but was able to win the election because he focused on stuff, like the economy, inflation, stuff that really mattered to Virginia governors, and they really did not care about Donald Trump anymore, and that's what Terry McAuliffe was trying to run on, and you could see Glenn Youngkin almost winning by 2 points there. So I think that for this race, what really is going to matter is the job cuts that Virginia is seeing. We've seen Spanberger really campaign on that, and Winston Sears, her being used in recording on these campaign ads where she's talking about how she doesn't understand why people are mad about these jobs being cut, and it seems to be really hurting her campaign. if this continues, Sears is probably on track for a very, very bad night. But we still have a lot of months to go, and a lot of stuff could happen. But so far, we are seeing good things for the Democrats. As you can see here, let me get to the general election. As you can see here, for the predictions, the Cook Political Report, or here, let me go back a little bit. So on April 30th, 2025, we had this as a lean D. Obviously, this would be a flip, going from Glenn Youngkin, who's the current Republican governor, to being Abigail Spanberger, who would be the Democratic governor. It'd be the first time since 2020, the first time since 2022, which was when Glenn Youngkin was sworn in, since the Democrats really had a Democrat Congress, or Democrat governor. So on April 30th, 2025, this is a lean D rating. On April 17th, 2025, this became a tilt D leaning, or tilt D rating. And then on May 1st, 2025, it went back to a lean D, so this is really good for Democrats, as Republicans really haven't had much advantages here. And we also see this in this Wikipedia polling, where the only time Spanberger really didn't have a dominating lead was back in like September of 2023, when nobody was paying attention to this election, right? You had Sears at 26, Spanberger at 27, and 47% undecided, because nobody at this time knew the candidates, right? And you can see this really for September 2024. Sure, the undecided dropped by a much lower margin, down to 12%, and you can see Sears and Spanberger jumping both up to 39%, which, it was really a tie here. And then we get to December of 2024, where the undecided now has dropped down to 9%. Sears is at 44%, and Spanberger leads with 47%. A 3-point margin. This was just a month after the country trended heavily to the right. And now we go to January of 2025, where the American people have once again, gotten a good taste of Trump and him coming into office here. Just not yet at this point, though. And it's still a close race, right? So you have Sears at 41%, Spanberger at 42%. And then, the January 6th to January 13th, 2025, Trump still is in office, but he is, doing more press conferences. He's speaking more. He's getting more into the headlines. We have, right, Sears at 39%. She drops to 39%. You have Spanberger rising up to 44%. You have the undecided just at a 12%. And then we get between December 18th and January 15th, where once again, Spanberger has a big lead. You kind of get the picture here. Then we get to where Trump is sworn in. It goes to a tie. This is the first time where Sears makes gains in polling. Then we go to February, the last time we got this polling here, where Spanberger starts to increase her lead, right? The American people are starting to get used to seeing Trump in the Oval Office again. Trump starts talking about the things he's going to do. Elon Musk starts causing problems. The American people start to expressing their disapproval on Trump here. If I can get to, here we go, to the job approval of Donald Trump. I believe in February, his approval was still in the positives, but it was sinking. I know it sunk into the negatives around March here. So in February, Trump was still popular, just about 3 points popular. He didn't lose that until, I believe, March. Yep, I was right. So in February, Trump really just still has an approval of +2, down from +5 here. Yeah, so this is February 17th. Yeah, he had a +2 approval rating. And the last one here, February 26th to 28th, where Spanberger once again has a pretty big lead over Sears. Not as big as this one, right? This is it's a 15-point lead. Obviously, this one is just a 6-point lead. I believe this poll probably more accurate than a lead like this. I don't think it's going to be a double-digit win for the Democrats. I think it's going to be much closer than that, but it will probably be something like a 5 to 6 point win, which is probably more realistic and accurate. And I think we could see something like this on election night. But yeah. So that was the last polling, and the Wikipedia obviously hasn't added in the new polls for this race, right? They really haven't added the new governor polling for Virginia yet. But they will. I mean, if Real Clear Politics is added, then Wikipedia eventually will add it. But yeah, you really do have Spanberger once again proving that she really is a very strong candidate here, and I do believe we have the cash on Here we go, the fundraising. So this is only the primary campaign through March 31st, 2025. Right, we have Abigail Spanberger here. She raised $16 million. She spent $5 million, and she currently has $11 million on hand. So, right, she has the money in the selection, right? We also have some of the candidates who, declared. We have independents who declared. I believe really these primaries are over as, Spanberger and Sears have been really the nominees who have been able, right, endorsements. Abigail Spanberger's got endorsements from Tim Kaine, who's a current Virginia senator, a bunch of Democrat U.S. representatives, statewide officials, cabinet officials, state legislators, local officials, labor unions, organizations. So that is really, that is something she likes to see, right? We have the candidate, the nominee is going to be Abigail Spanberger. We have we have some candidates that withdrawn, and obviously a candidate that declined to run. But really, nothing really serious happened in the Democratic primary. Now, do we have? I don't know if we have the. We do have the Republican primary. So we go to Republican primary, right? Winsome Sears, ran, and then she became the nominee. Failed to qualify. Were Amanda Chase and David LaRock declined. So really, the Democratic Party was able to unite against Spanberger, and the Republican Party was able to unite against Winsome Sears. So they easily have won the primaries, and the elections haven't even happened yet, right? The primary elections are going to be taking place in June, and it's pretty clear who the nominees are going to be, who they're going to be facing in November. Neither of these candidates faced any much of a primary challenge at all, and the state parties have chosen to unite against them. Now, who wins in November is going to be the real question, and so far it looks like it's going to be Abigail Spanberger because, right, she's been dominating in these polls all the way back in September of 2023. She seems like the favorite. She's been the favorite for months now. And this summer, probably this campaign is going to escalate by a lot, and we're probably going to get a lot more polls, and I'm very excited for that. And if anything shifts, right, if Sears makes some sort of comeback, which she still can do, but as of right now, it is still not going in the right direction for her, and if this continues, she's probably going to lose by 5 to 6 or 6 to 7 points. If it's a likely, like, Democrat result, I could totally see that happening. I could see that totally happening. Especially if more jobs gets cut in Virginia and Sears just continues to not care. And that will continue to harm her campaign, especially Spanberger uses that against her. But if Sears is able to come up with this narrative against Spanberger, as Glenn Youngkin was able to when he said that McAuliffe didn't care about parents' rights in schools, and that really tanked his campaign, and he lost the general election in November to Glenn Youngkin. So if Sears is able to come up with some sort of narrative or something to campaign on against Spanberger, then maybe she has a shot in this election. But as of right now, she really doesn't, as she has a 38% in the polls here, and Spanberger with a 45%, which, is almost a 10-point lead here. We're almost looking at a 10-point lead here, but just not quite. And like I said, I don't think that if Spanberger wins, it's not going to be by double digits. Unless Trump is incredibly unpopular, which as of right now, he actually isn't. His approval rating has actually been going up, which I haven't made a video on it, but I should. As you can see here, Donald Trump's approval rating actually has been rising again. As you see, it went to the negatives back in March, and his approval reached an all-time low of -7 points, which actually is pretty good considering how bad his approval rating was in his first term. Now, ever since then, April of 2025, we've kind of seen his disapproval rating decline by much, and his approval rating actually went up a bit, or a lot actually. It went up it was at 45%, record low of 45%, and now it's gone back up to about 7%. So it's a 2-point swing for his approval rating. It's something he'd like to see. Now, remind you, he hasn't been in the positive numbers since March of 2025. So he's been in the negatives now for about almost 3 months. He's been in the negatives for about 2 months now. If he is able to turn around, which is heading in that direction, right? We went from 7 points to now under 2 points. That is something that he definitely wants to see. And if he's able to continue doing that, maybe he can be back in the positives, but we'll just have to see. But anyways, that's going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video.